It's a very, very strong need for somebody who has Venus and Gemini in their birth charts that there is intellectual stimulation in the relationship. The relationship cannot feel dull, it cannot feel boring, it cannot be flatline. It has to be exciting, it has to be a grand adventure. There has to be novelty in that relationship in order for it to stay in the relationship and function. In this video, I'm going to be discussing Venus, the planet of love and relationship, in Gemini, in the third sign of the zodiac, in the sign of the twins, in the sign of the third house, in the sign of communication. What this means if you have Venus and Gemini in your chart. So the very, very first thing is that um, Venus and Gemini has to talk, um, write, sing, dance, any means, any um, sort of mode of expressing themselves. They have to express themselves through a certain media. Um, they can't keep things bottled up. They can't be restricted. They can't be told to not talk or to not have these, very creative ideas that they have. They have to have the freedom in relationship to express themselves. Um, they may be into change. They're all about change. They need change in relationships because if it's flatline, if it's the same predictable old routine for a very, very long time, they're going to get bored and they're going to want to leave the relationship. So there has to be change. There has to be novelty as well. There has to be new, exciting adventures for them to embark upon in that relationship. They also really like short distance travel a lot. That's been related to Gemini, so take them on short distance travel type trips. They can be wishy-washy, floating from one thing to another, not really sticking to one thing or another, hopping between one thing and another, and not making. And they're not the best decision makers. It's kind of like Libra. They're going to weigh out all the options and all the perspectives, and they're going to consider it all, and they're going to have difficulty making relationships, making decisions happen. Now, I have Venus in Gemini, Mars in Gemini, but my Sun is in Aries. That helps with decisiveness because that is exactly what the Sun in Aries is. It's decisive. It's, I know what I want and I know how to get it. So, I'm fortunate to have the sun sign that I have, and I would not change it, if I were to create my chart again. So anyway, it may be hard for them to commit to long-term relationships because they need newness, they need novelty, they need all kinds of those types of things. There's a need here to have a partner that keeps up with their quick-witted qualities, with their moods, that they can keep up with them, that they can stimulate them. Their humor can be irresistible to others. Something very, very huge. With their humor, it can really attract and draw others in. They have good vibes about them. They may bounce from partner to partner, bouncing from being in one relationship and then another relationship because they're looking for a relationship that is stimulating and new and exciting. And when the relationship dies out, when that fire dies out, they're going to want to relight the match by throwing up some change in relationship or throwing up a brand new relationship. So they really want the real thing. However, they can be superficial. They can be shallow. They can be surface level at the low road. So that is huge and exciting. So it's really, really critical for them to slow down, to slow everything down, to be present and enjoy time with their partner, enjoy time with their loved ones. Finding their true love is very, very important to them. It's something good to note as well. They're good at giving gifts to their lover. They're gift givers. They're very generous. They want to give. Um, they want to be 100% since they found their true love. So they can be found still having children, eventually more in the spectrum of more or less. If a relationship ends, if they break up with you, if they leave that relationship, they probably don't want to get back together in that relationship because they know how boring it can be. So they will end the relationship with no end altogether. Now they're very, very loyal friends. It's something very, very important to note about them is that they're loyal. Even if their relationship or friendship becomes distant, becomes very detached, they are very loyal people. Um, they're all about continuing the relationship with their ex-partner. Um, the concept of breaking up is not widely accepted by them. That's very, very important. That's very interesting. Having Venus in Gemini does not indicate that the person will be a liar. However, it may be a little bit of an indication because that's one of the dark sides of Gemini, telling somebody else something and then telling somebody else a completely different thing. And then, you're conflicted and then it's like a double-edged sword. They can lie their way and talk their way into things. So lying is one of the downsides of the Gemini twins and the trickery, the trickster qualities because think of the twins, the Bill and Ben, as a really, really famous example. They're tricky. Mighty Mac is another example. They don't get along, they're not on the same page. So there is duality within the Gemini, one twin wants to go this way, one twin wants to go that way, and so there's conflict, so there's duality. And if you place Gemini with Pisces, for example, the result is confusion. The result is lack of clarity. Money can be important to them in their own ways that they choose spending it on books, movies. Now, I have Venus in Gemini, and I have spent a lot of my money on Oracle cards because what are Oracle cards? But they're very stimulating. They give you things to consider. They give you things to think about. They give because that's very important for Gemini, is something to focus their attention on. And Oracle cards act as that, providing things to focus your attention on. So I know, for instance, two people two authors of Oracle cards that created a lot of Oracle cards. They're both Cancer suns and they both have Venus and Gemini. And then I know of somebody else who has a YouTube channel reviewing thousands of decks, who has the biggest collection, more than anyone on the planet, who is a Gemini sun with Venus in Gemini. So if that's not validation, I don't know what is. But anyway, that's my little side story. The relationships matter a lot to them in their own kind of way. They love to travel and they dislike being in one place for too long. They don't like to be stuck in the minute. They like to travel. They like to be adaptable. The butterfly flitting from one flower to another. There's a need for mobility with displacement. They're seeing the transition in relationships. They put their love at their top priority. That's very, very important for them. They want to find real love rather than superficial love. Yet they're superficial at the time. They need variety. They absolutely need variety. Variety is the spice of life. And that's the most important thing. They can be social butterflies. That's something very important to note about them. It's an open, you know, they want to talk to as many people as possible. They want to share ideas, bounce ideas off, learn ideas, receive ideas, share ideas. Sort of like a tennis game, where one person throws the ball and another person, that kind of thing. So it's the reciprocity of that they're really into. So there's an openness here to experience and exploration. There's a craving for intellectual stimulation and love. Um, there is a need for this. The intellectual stimulation is the most important thing for them in love. That's how they love you, is by intellectually stimulating and being intellectually stimulated. So you value your mind tremendously. That mind of yours is a top value and it needs to keep entertained. It needs to keep stimulated. You want to spend valuable time getting to know your lover and learning a lot about who they are. Learning, being curious, taking in information. It's very important that you weigh your options to determine if a relationship is for you in terms of your use and your time and energy. So, which relationships are good for you, which relationships are not serving you. You may be drawn to optimistic and lovers of life type people. Um, that's very, very huge. You want interesting relationships. Novelty in relationships is important. Boredom is like living hell in relationships. They cannot be bored. They can't afford to be bored. So one thing that they want to avoid is boredom. So when the relationship dies out, when it becomes kind of dry, they need, and it hits a dry spell. They need the rain. They need the new ideas. They need the fresh air to come in and shake things up and change things and to bring some excitement to the relationship. So they're very dualistic. The light side and the dark side of who they are is very dualistic in nature. As I've talked about before, there's one part of them this way, another part of them that way. There's the hell and then the heaven, the dark and the light, the angel and the devil. So they're multifaceted in their personality. They can be cheerful, they can be lighthearted, maybe a little bit superficial. Very communicative. They are indeed this quality. Now, they can get along really, really well with a lot of people. They're very, very versatile in their nature. They're very attractive and fun for others to be around. They're a people person. Um, they want to get along with other people. They want to interact and do those kind of things like that. So here there is a sense of they can be extroverted in nature. Of course, this depends upon other factors in the chart. I have Saturn in Cancer. My sun is in the fourth house, so that kind of dims down the sociability. I am more of an introverted type person rather than extroverted, reaching out and meeting people, not the easiest and most natural thing for me to do in nature. you know, and it does depend upon who they are and what the situation is. But anyway, um, there's a sense of humor with them, and they need a mental connection in love. So humor is very, very huge for them in their relationships. It can be hard for them to be attached emotionally because they're so detached, because they're so, airy-fairy, flitting around from one thing to the other, they can be detached. They need freedom in their relationships, and they need space in relationships to talk to who they want to talk to and meet with whom they want to meet, even if it's not you. There's intellectual bonds that need to be formed. Gemini has connection with others. Venus wants Venus and Gemini wants to be around others to enjoy their company and share information with them. They can be popular or well known in their local group or community. They feel better about themselves when they open up and talk to people. So this is very, very important that I want to bring in here. That there's a sense of satisfaction and meaning that they get from talking and interacting with others. They know what they're saying and they know when to say it. They're good at persuasion and negotiation. They can very easily gain others' trust. They can make great writers because they have that kind of talent with communication. They may also have an appreciation for art. They may enjoy reading books, stimulating the mind in that way, watching movies. They're great conversationalists. They also they also have something fascinating on their mind that they want to share. They may really like um they always have something interesting to share. They always have something that they want to share with others. So they really like short distance travel, as I've sort of referenced before. Um, Curiosity is their superpower. Curiosity is a superpower. Let's get that clear. So it's a good placement if you're in a job that requires you to work with others. If you have this placement, it's good for meeting people, good for interacting, all those kind of things like that. Venus and Gemini can be very flirtatious, very romantic, while also being interested, but not wanting to go to sleep. There's a restlessness here. There's a need for stimulation of always being on all the time. They want to be around those who can have a good time and spark conversations. The partner that they get involved with, the relationship they get involved with, must include a partner who is intelligent, well educated, and has a great sense of humor. They have an active mind that needs mental stimulation. It's very important. They um they need new stimulation all the time, new things all the time. They can be spontaneous in love. They can be loyal and committed to you if they really love you. They need their freedom in relationships. They're highly expressive and they're highly quick-witted. They're all about expressing themselves. And so there's a lot of things that they're curious about. They're so curious to all the things in the world to learn about and discover. They can also be very, very playful in nature. So that is Venus and Gemini in the natal chart. Let me know what you like about this placement in the comment section below. Share this if you think that somebody else who probably has Venus and Gemini would resonate with the information that I shared with you today. Um, like this video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and have a wonderful rest of your day or night. Bye for now.